In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking another look here at those major Arctic blasts that we do expect to roll in, and one of which in early November here, just a few days away, looks to be very intense, bringing even potentially snowfall to some of the central and eastern states. We need to talk about that as a possibility at this point. Numerous cold fronts rolling through. These are going to be high precipitation and bring a lot of much needed rainfall to the deeper south and eastern states, which we will discuss. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about Hurricane Melissa out there, that is expected to be an extremely major hurricane, coming up to a category 4 at least. And that is going to bring devastation to Jamaica, Haiti, and Cuba. And we're going to be talking about all of these things. So let's just dive into things and take a look here at the current conditions. And first things first, we'll take a look at the Northwest here, where we can see we have a low offshore of Oregon and Washington up here. A lot of this activity is kind of just flowing in kind of from the southwest up to the northeast of these regions. Some of this rainfall being quite heavy in some places, and I'm sure some of the higher elevations are experiencing snowfall with this one as of now. So definitely an impactful storm system up there, and they've seen a lot of precipitation recently overall. We do have some lower pressure over here near Texas and Oklahoma. We'll call the center somewhere in here. And this has been really interesting. This has a warm front up above, so we have a huge warm sector. And within there, we do have a cold front rolling through, but overall, we do have a lot of thunderstorms picking up throughout central and southern Texas here, like Austin, Houston, San Antonio. Those are some of the areas to watch, and even very close here to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we're getting some thunderstorm development in there as well. Along the leading edge of this frontal boundary, as well off to the east, we do have what looks to be like some thunderstorm activity in eastern Louisiana and eastern Mississippi, and this will be expanding into Alabama and like the Florida Panhandle here over the coming hours. Looking further towards the northeast, we do still have some of those passing showers ongoing from the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and Mid-Atlantic, and even into the northeast. These are very light in nature for most of them and very sporadic, so this shouldn't be too detrimental to any plans that you have ongoing throughout the day today. Now, looking at the overall projected path of Hurricane Melissa, and it is a Category 1 as of now, this thing is looking to rapidly intensify. We can see Category 1 today, here on the 25th. By tonight on the 25th, or yeah, that's the same update. I don't know why it's like that, but by the time we're looking at I'm reading the wrong times here. My bad, guys. This is by 8 p.m. tonight. This is by time we're taking a look at 8 a.m. tomorrow on the 26th, Category 3. So we were a tropical storm this morning, and by tomorrow morning, we're going to be a Category 3. So that is obviously a very rapidly intensifying system, and we've seen some data coming in to suggest that this is going to be a major and very impactful system, and that it is intensifying much greater than we originally anticipated on the very early portion, which just kind of raises the ceiling for how strong this thing can get before it does strike into Jamaica. By the time we're looking at 8 p.m. tomorrow on the 26th, we can see that this one is expected to be at a Category 4, and it will remain that way for a couple of days. Here's 8 a.m. on the 27th, 8 p.m. on the 27th, and then here's 8 a.m. on the 28th. When it is here, it's already causing impacts to Jamaica. This is not a huge island. This is a relatively medium island, maybe you'd call it, maybe even small Jamaica. So this is already going to be an area where we are experiencing the outer bands of this hurricane, if not some of the medium ones. And then by the time we're here, a lot of the inner bands of the hurricane will be impacting the southern coast of Jamaica. And obviously, as you could tell, this one is expected to strike into Jamaica as of now. And by the time it's over the island, everybody's going to be seeing those massive impacts. And we'll go over the impacts later on, but it does not end with Jamaica. We do see the eastern areas of Haiti, especially this little southern part that juts out, seeing very heavy rainfall. And then it is expected to move directly over the eastern areas of Cuba as well. So this is going to be impacting a lot of folks. And even as we head further northward than that, we see the Turks and Caicos and some of the Eastern Bahamas there. These areas also seeing direct impacts from what'll be likely a category 2 or 1 hurricane by this point, which will bring a whole nother multitude of impacts. So this is just looking like a terrible, terrible situation down there in the Caribbean. And this is obviously something I've been sounding the alarms on for a couple of days, but I will say that for Jamaica especially, I would not be surprised if this is a devastating hurricane. I am talking so many areas seeing flooding, so many landslides because this is a mountainous area. Landslides are going to be happening all over the place. Strong winds and just absolutely unbelievable storm surge. I think that this is going to be a devastating storm for Jamaica, potentially even Haiti, Cuba, Bahamas, and Turks and Caicos. This is a terrible situation, and this is likely to be all over the news by the time it's happening and said and done. This is just really terrible news, and I wish I had other things to tell you guys, but this is a really, really frightening situation down there. Really, really bad. Now let's go ahead and move into some of that model guidance and kind of get a bit better picture for what we have upcoming. Now, first things first, I want to take us straight towards tomorrow afternoon. And by the time we're reaching tomorrow afternoon, what we see is a whole lot of rain and snowfall up there in the northwest, depending on your elevation. The deeper south also continuing to get on some of this precipitation. We can see, again, you follow these lines, we can see there's a bit of a ridge over the central states and still a trough over the east. So you can expect up and down the east coast, still a cooler day and night tomorrow. Monday as well, where a lot of this deep south activity kind of crosses offshore. And we've been watching the possibilities with this one. Is it going to move way out to sea, or is this one going to track very close to the east coast? And obviously there's a massive amount of differences in the impacts, but these areas should be aware that we do have the potential for a nor'easter type system early to mid next week. The models have been very back and forth on this one. We do also see a low forming outside of all of that activity in the northwest that does want to form more of a cold front, warm front type look here, and that could become a pretty dynamic system over time as well. Just kind of expanding this forward, we're going to move towards Tuesday the 28th here. What we see by that afternoon is much less of a low, but still more of a cold front look, and we can see this Arctic air just really getting funneled in here. Behind it, we have warmer, higher pressure, kind of just building in for the west, and this is just squeezing that cold air, which is making it force southward. So again, your jet stream is doing something like this, just a really intense look with the trough moving into the east. And you can even see these blue areas in here. This is where we still have a little bit of a backdoor cold front bringing cooler air to the east coast still by Tuesday the 28th. We have another one on the way as well. We can see a nor'easter doesn't really get going here yet. But by the time we're looking at Wednesday the 29th here, we do have some lower pressure offshore of the east coast. We also have another low forming further inland over the Midwest. And this is bringing a whole lot of storminess overall to a lot of these areas in the eastern half of the nation. And by Thursday, we could see a fully blown trough here in the east. We see the west is very warm. Something like this is what we're looking at. With all of this precipitation on the warm front side of things moving up into the northeast, they might be a little bit milder for the day on Thursday, whereas the areas further south and west are dealing with cooler conditions because they're behind the cold front. I hope that makes sense. Either way, this is kind of your driving force here, is this low nearby Lake Erie. That's really the driving force behind a lot of these dynamics. Obviously, a lot of precipitation falls there, and by the time we're looking at Halloween on the 31st, we do get a lot nicer. Warmer along the west, much cooler in the east. It's going to be a cold Halloween, but much less rainy than we originally anticipated. There is a few passing showers across the northern plains, a few across the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast here. Just really light stuff. This is a much, much better Halloween than we had originally anticipated a few days ago, so there's been some positive changes in that regard. Saturday, the 1st of November, is going to be a fitting way to start November because we have a really, really intense trough still set up over the east here. A little bit of storminess for the northwest, a little bit here in parts of the Midwest and plains, but again, nothing crazy going on yet. By the time I reach Sunday the 2nd, though, your jet stream is ridging more so over the central states. Still a bit of a trough in the east here, much weaker by the 2nd here, but still around. We do have some lower pressure, some storminess, generally kind of grazing across the deep south. And this one looks like it does maybe want to shoot off the east coast again, which would put us on another time frame to watch for some potential coastal storm activity. Looking at Monday here on the 3rd, we get a lot of this upward type flow, and that's going to help everything kind of come together and potentially move up just off the East Coast. By Tuesday, we see a couple of things. Ridges building back over the west. Another much more major trough in this instance is moving into the east, and we do have an offshore low. So we are looking at a Arctic blast and a nor'easter here. If this was December, January, or February, we would be really watching this closely for potential snowfall. This would be an exciting situation, and we aren't too far away from there. I mean, we're, by this point, only a month away from December, which does mark meteorological winter. So we are just blasting straight through the fall time and approaching the winter in a hurry. But look at this. This major low there near New England does bring some eastern snowfall. And this is not the first time we've seen mountainous snowfall in the east from these model runs. And actually, I looked at the past 5 model runs from this European model, and every single one to some extent has snowfall happening across the mountains of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, and the rest of the New England states. These areas are likely in for high elevation snowfall very soon, and it does appear like that first week of November would be the time frame to watch for some of our first flakes flying here in the east. Very chilly in the east by this time frame. We can see this Arctic flow is just shooting straight from northern Canada up there in the Arctic, straight through the northern plains, Midwest, and into the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. Again, this just continues to look colder and colder. It's actually getting worse as we reach towards Thursday the 6th. Lots of snow showers around for the high elevations, even some of the upper Midwest as well. It's Thursday the 6th, Friday the 7th. I mean, look at this jet stream, guys. You should not be seeing these blue lines this far south in early November. This is much more of what you expect late November into December to maybe happen during a big cool down. But this is happening in early November, and it is a massive cooldown that it takes to make this happen. So that should show you the extent of what we're dealing with here potentially in that first week of November. It does appear like it starts to lift off a little bit here at the end of the model run, but really it's the very end of the model run, and it's not really moved out. So this is just looking cold from now till the 9th of November and maybe even beyond at this point. So this is a crazy look. Total precipitation is a little bit regressed in the Northwest. The Southwest has a giant bubble here with absolutely no precipitation on this model run, which is just insane. And we can see the Deep South up the East Coast here. This area is doing quite nicely as far as precipitation, which is great news because a lot of these areas in here really need this. So looking at the anomalies, most areas, again, within that circle that we drew are above average, and everywhere that isn't above average is just slightly below average. They're pretty close to it. So this is overall tremendous news for these areas. Total snowfall is obviously looking pretty crazy, and the craziest part here is that on this particular model run, we are seeing more maybe for these mountains in New England than we are for a lot of our mountainous west. I think that this is an outlier. Again, we'll look at some of the other past model runs. Here's the 0Z from yesterday, and we could see some snowfall happening here in the east, a lot more of the Great Lakes and upper Midwest, and this looks a lot more realistic to what you expect this time of year versus the one after it. And then here's the 12Z from yesterday. We can also see some snowfall in these mountainous eastern areas. And again, kind of like northern plains, upper Midwest, and Great Lakes are also looking for the chance for flakes, a dusting, maybe even a couple of inches from some different snow events. Nothing earth-shattering here, but we are moving into the time of year where we start to talk about perhaps snowfall. And I don't think any of this is really too outlandish. The most outlandish is the current model run because it does have a major nor'easter move in and bring heavy snowfall to the mountains there. That's a little, going to be hard to come by, especially at the end of the model run. I don't think that's going to end up happening, but I do think we're going to see flakes, and I do think we're going to see some light to moderate snowfall for some of these areas by the time we're looking at early November, which is exciting. So we're going to be looking forward to that. The temperatures, again, we're currently under a cool down. This is the European model. The next one kind of moves in by the time we're looking at Wednesday the 29th, Thursday the 30th, and then again Halloween day here, Friday the 31st into the 1st. And then we actually see cooldown number 3 kind of move in. We see it's going to be up here actually, and it's just going to kind of infuse itself with this one that's currently overhead. So watch this. It just kind of moves in and takes right over, so we stay cooler overall. And then here's that, again, Thursday the 6th of November look. Extremely cold compared to normal in the east and very warm all along the west. And we see that just continue for days. But this is on the extreme level of things. This is 10 to 15 degrees below normal with some 15 to 25 degrees below normal mixed in there. This is 2 months ahead of schedule in a lot of cases, if not 1 month ahead of schedule for some of the darker greens and darker blues. This is crazy, crazy stuff for this time of year. GFS model, cooldown number 1, cooldown number 2, cooldown number 3, cooldown number 4 there, which is a little less major than the European models, but we still see really cold air. But this one mostly takes aim at the central states and northeastern states, a little flatter. We actually get a lot of pushback from the deep south here with more of a southeast ridge type pattern. And, you know, the trend is your friend, so we're always watching kind of what's been happening, what's likely happening based on the models. So we're watching for these trends. These models at times have wanted to show southeast ridge type pattern setup, but we have not seen it this fall. We didn't see it at all last fall and winter, hardly. We're not really seeing it happen in reality this fall and winter, but again, the models have been kind of suggesting it at times, but then it falls through and it's mostly just colder along the deep south and out east coast too. And really, some of the coldest areas compared to normal have been these deeper south and east coast locations. So I'm a little bit skeptical. Obviously, we have to consider this as a possibility. This is very far out, so we're breaking it down more than we probably should. But it's definitely something to watch for. But until we start actually seeing these southeast ridges happen, and that being an actual trend this fall and winter, it's going to be something to have a little bit of a pushback. Just you want to watch it, but until it happens, we're keeping it at arm's length, if you will. Now, I want to show this. This is the key messages for Tropical Storm, Melissa. This is as of 11 a.m. Eastern time. It is currently 5 p.m. Eastern time, and this thing is a hurricane at this point. I encourage you, if you have loved ones, or if you happen to be watching this and you live in Jamaica, Cuba, Bahamas, you know, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Turks and Caicos, all those areas, you're going to want to read this. It has a portion set out for every single area, but you see a lot of large, crazy terms like catastrophic, life-threatening. We see that on multiple occasions. You see the things about the landslides, the flash flooding. Please read this. Take it very seriously. This is, again, something that jumps off the screen at me, and I've been kind of feeling that way for a couple of days before we were getting a lot of attention on this one from the National Hurricane Center and mainstream people and everything. This has just always kind of jumped off the screen at me as like a disaster waiting to happen, and here we are, and it just looks even worse than I could have imagined. So please take this one so seriously and do everything you can to protect your property and, most importantly, yourself, because it's likely to come down to that in some areas. So please, please, please don't underestimate this storm. It is already a hurricane ahead of schedule. It looks like it's going to become likely a major hurricane very, very quickly, and there is nothing stopping this one from becoming a Category 5 hurricane, and even a really strong Category 5 hurricane. But I always say this, whether it's a Category 3, 4, 5, a lot of times that's not going to change a lot with the rainfall. We've seen tropical storms bring, 15, 20 inches of rainfall and be completely devastating as far as precipitation. Mostly the storm speed is the problem with that, and we expect this one to be at a snail's pace. Likely, I suspect, some areas will see 30 inches plus. That's also what the National Hurricane Center is thinking, and that is obviously just a crazy, crazy number. But this thing is moving so slowly, and the rain is not going to be taking breaks. It is going to be raining the entire time. Just really, really bad news. But if this one does intensify even further than we even think, that's going to be really bad for storm surge and wind, which is just another factor. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Again, please, please, please stay safe. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.